If I were choosing a doggy daycare for my dogs tomorrow, there are a few red flags that would make me immediately walk out the door and keep my dogs far, far away, and a few green flags that would help me feel confident in trusting my dog in the care of that facility. I've worked professionally in the pet industry for over a decade, and many of those years were working inside doggy daycares. So I want to tell you exactly what to look for if you're shopping for a doggy daycare for your own dog. More and more often, we're hearing of dogs becoming sick, getting injured, developing serious behavioral issues, escaping or getting lost, being neglected, getting mauled or getting into fights, and even losing their lives at doggy daycare facilities. There are certain characteristics of facilities that will make these things more likely to happen or less likely to happen, and I want you to be able to make the best choice possible to keep your dog safe, happy, and healthy. Of course, what you do with your dog is up to you, and your needs and expectations could very well be much different than mine. If you're new here, hi, my name is Kaylin, and I'm a certified professional dog trainer. But before becoming a full time trainer, I worked in doggy daycare facilities for almost a decade, and I know firsthand what separates a really excellent facility that helps dogs thrive, helps dogs overcome behavioral challenges, and really be their best selves from a facility that sets dogs up for failure and puts dogs at unnecessary risk. Since becoming a trainer, I've worked with countless owners and dogs who are dealing with long term behavioral challenges that either started or became much worse after negative doggy daycare experiences. Of course, all of us owners want the best for our dogs, and across the board, consistently, owners tell me, I wish I had known this sooner. I wish I knew that these were red flags when I was choosing a doggy daycare, and I wish that I would have prevented this from happening to my dog. So that's the education and the knowledge that I want to give to you today. Now, whether your dog is a good candidate for a doggy daycare or boarding facility is really a whole separate topic for another video, but today I'm going to assume that you've decided to explore the option of doggy daycare or boarding and you're ready to start vetting facilities. We're going to start with red flags that would make me walk away from a facility, and then we'll get into green flags that would help me trust that a daycare facility is doing things right. If you find videos like this helpful, please subscribe, leave me a like or comment, and share. That is the best way to help other owners become educated so that they can make the best choices for their dogs as well. There's a lot for us to go over here, so I'm going to be referring to the notes that I've made, and some of these notes come directly from my owners and followers on Instagram who were so kind to share their experiences with me. One of the earliest red flags that you might run into is a facility that doesn't require up-to-date vaccinations or clean fecals from pets. If they're not requiring this from your dog, they haven't required it from the other dogs that yours is going to be interacting with. And vaccinations, of course, help to prevent the spread of preventable diseases. And a clean fecal test from every pet helps to prevent the spread of parasites. Some parasites can be spread back home to humans as well, and you definitely don't want that. Some other red flags include poor cleaning and sanitation protocols, not having an emergency evacuation plan in the event of an emergency like a fire, poor escape prevention, such as not having double gates, not having a high enough fence, gaps in fences, poor protocols at transition times. It is very scary how often dogs escape and are lost from boarding facilities, but it happens quite often. Also, staff not being trained in pet CPR and first aid, and not having protocols in place for what happens when a dog gets sick, if a dog gets injured, if a dog gets into a fight. I have seen dogs go days with injuries at boarding facilities with no medical treatment and nobody reaching out to owners to let them know what's going on. Next, let's talk about some red flags, particularly when it comes to staffing of facilities. To me, a huge red flag is a doggy daycare or boarding facility that has no dog trainers or dog behavior experts involved. A facility where staff has little to no education or real experience with dog body language, handling dogs, or dog behavior. Somewhere that has minimal staff training or continuing education. or a facility where employees can't explain why dogs are placed together in groups or how they're monitoring play. You may not know this, but many doggy daycare facilities are staffed by very young, very inexperienced people. I was one of those people when I was 15, working at a facility that I really had no business working in. And those people who maybe don't have any previous experience with dogs and don't have any real knowledge of dog body language, appropriate play, safely handling dogs, those people are often in charge of many, many dogs at a time. And with that, let's get into playgroup management. The biggest red flags with playgroups for me are huge, chaotic playgroups and playgroups where dogs are playing all day long. If you're seeing photos on social media of doggy playgroups where there's 20, 30, 40 plus dogs crammed into a small space with one person supervising them, run far away. When it comes to routines at a doggy daycare, some red flags include day-long playgroups where dogs are continuously playing all day. That over arousal all day wouldn't be fun for any of us, and at best will lead to an over aroused dog that can't settle at home. Along those lines, red flags include not having scheduled nap times and decompression times, not having times for individual enrichment or one-on-one time if a dog needs it. Indoor only facilities are not inherently bad, but it is a big red flag for me if a facility is indoor only and there's not space for dogs to decompress, sniff, explore, and have some time and space alone. A big red flag is constant barking, whining, and chaos. And if you walk into a facility or are in the parking lot of a facility and it is just chaos all the time, imagine what that would be like for your dog to be in the middle of that all day long. Communication between the facility and owners is so extremely important. So some big red flags for me are like vague report cards that always just say your dog had a great day with no specifics. A facility who is not discussing stress, over arousal, or how they're overcoming challenges with your dogs, because your dog very likely will experience challenges transitioning to a doggy daycare, even at a great doggy daycare. And transparency with how staff is managing that is so important. If they're not being transparent about how they're managing stress and over arousal, they're probably not managing it. A red flag is getting lots of cute photos, but no meaningful explanation of your dog's behavior, how they interact with other dogs, what their play style is, what their preferences in other dogs are. And finally, let's talk about equipment and handling. Another red flag is a facility that uses aversive tools like e-collars or prong collars without owner consent or without a proper training plan that goes along with those tools. A facility that relies on punishment after poor behavior happens versus relying on management and prevention in the first place. And a facility that doesn't have proper equipment or training about how to use that equipment, such as slip leads for safer transitions or basket muzzles for dogs who might benefit from those during playgroups or dog interactions. Okay, we just described the worst doggy daycare ever, so now let's get into green flags of some signs that doggy daycare is trustworthy and has your dog's best interest in mind. Let's start with some health and safety green flags. An ethical, trustworthy facility requires up-to-date vaccinations and recent clean fecals from every dog that enters the building. This helps to prevent the spread of diseases and parasites. And a facility should have excellent cleaning, sanitization, and disease prevention protocols in place. Staff should be trained in pet CPR, first aid, and emergency response. Of course, the facility needs to be very secure with secure fencing, typically double gated entries and exits to prevent escapes, and very clear transition protocols about entering the building, exiting the building, coming in and out from play groups, etc. to keep dogs safe. A good facility is transparent with emergency protocols, like what happens if your dog becomes sick or injured while in their care, and should be providing immediate owner communication if something happens with your dog. Let's get into some green flags when it comes to staffing of a good doggy daycare facility. I love to see trainers or experienced behavior professionals overseeing playgroups. All staff should be receiving training and ongoing education about dog body language, dog behavior, handling, enrichment, and safety. Staff should be able to recognize subtle signs of stress in dogs before that stress escalates, and there should be protocols in place about what can be done to help minimize stress in dogs, and that might look different for each individual dog. That's a good sign. Staff should be empowered to speak up if a dog is not having a good time at daycare and to advocate for the welfare of each individual dog. And to me, it is a big green flag if a facility can notice and communicate that a dog is not a good fit for doggy daycare. When it comes to playgroups, some of my green flags include small dog to human ratios. Playgroups should be kept small, well supervised, and carefully curated based not only on the size of dogs, but also on the dog's age, their temperament, their play style, their confidence level, and their preferences. I really love seeing stable playgroups that happen on a weekly basis where dogs get to know each other over time and build stable long-term relationships rather than daycares where dogs are having to integrate into new groups and meeting many, many new dogs every day. I also love to see help giving dogs breaks before they become overstimulated and start to display unwanted behaviors. When you're asking about the daily routine and schedule at a doggy daycare, some green flags are scheduled nap and decompression time, individual quiet enrichment like Kongs, frozen bones, puzzle toys, sniffy mats, snuggle times with staff, etc. I love to see quiet rest areas like kennel areas where dogs can have some time to themselves, decompress, and truly relax without feeling like another dog is going to constantly get in their face and try to bug them for more play. And I really love facilities that have safe outdoor spaces that allow for sniffing, decompression, exploring, and organic, natural movement from dogs in a wide open space, safely, of course. Some green flags are activities that are based on dogs' ages, their play style, their preferences, their health, their temperament, their breed specific needs, and not just every dog being expected to enjoy the same activities. Staff should be getting to know your dog in particular, their personality, their quirks, how they feel about different things, what they love to do, or what they dislike. A green flag is a facility that has the education and resources to have one-on-one time with dogs if that's what's most appropriate for a dog. Not every dog should be in group play at daycare. And I love to see basket muzzles being used for particular dogs as part of their training plan to help them integrate safely into groups when appropriate. And of course, transparency is huge here. So at the end of your dog's first day at daycare, you shouldn't just be hearing your dog did great, they're so cute, they're wonderful. You should be getting honest feedback about your dog's day. What was stressful for them? What did they struggle with? What do they need to be working on in the future? What type of dogs did they enjoy? What was their play style? And a huge green flag is a doggy daycare that is able to recognize and communicate when a dog just is not a good fit for doggy daycare. For these facilities, it's not about the money and the numbers and the volume of dogs. It's about a very carefully curated group of dogs that all are thriving in this environment and or have a plan to thrive in the environment. Now let's quickly touch on touring because you may have noticed I didn't put in my red flags a facility that doesn't allow tours, but it depends on why they don't allow tours. So if you're going into a facility and they're allowing a tour and you go into the building and you have direct access to people's dogs, you can stick your fingers in their crate, you can pet them, there's barking, there's chaos, it's super crazy when there's a stranger in the building. That's a red flag to me. I don't want to trust my dog in the care of a facility and then for them to be bringing strangers and kids and people I don't know to come and interact with my dog. That's not okay with me. I also don't want my dog and other dogs to be constantly exposed to the stress and over arousal of having strangers come in and rile everybody up. If a facility has a protocol in place for calm, safe tours, that's great. You can see the facility. But if they say, no, we don't do tours because we're focusing on restful, calm, confident dogs here, and we don't bring strangers in the facility for that reason, that's a green flag to me. Often those facilities will have virtual tours in place for you. So now that we've gone over some red flags and green flags, here are a few questions you can ask doggy daycare facilities to get a feel for what type of facility they are. What is your dog to staff ratio? How are dogs grouped during playgroups? How much time do dogs spend in playgroups each day? How much rest do dogs get each day? How are new dogs introduced to the groups? What happens if dogs get into a disagreement? What happens if a dog becomes sick or injured? Are staff CPR and first aid trained? Who oversees behavior and training? How do you prevent dogs from escaping? Are playgroups constantly supervised? What happens when a dog starts to become overwhelmed or over aroused in a playgroup? And what would make you tell an owner that their dog was not a good fit for daycare? Thanks for watching, and if you benefited from this video, please leave me a like or a comment, subscribe to see more content like this, and share this video with another dog owner who you think would benefit from seeing this as well. That is the best way to get my content out there so that more owners can make the best possible choices for their dogs.